The Galactic Empire of Zytherian, a sprawling dominion of over 1,000 star systems, stood as the epitome of order and dominance. With its vast fleets and unparalleled technology, the Empire's rule was absolute, save for one glaring exception: humanity. For centuries, the Zytherian had conquered and assimilated countless civilizations, bending entire worlds to their will. Emperor Clyrax, the merciless and cunning ruler of the Empire, was both feared and revered. His conquests had brought unparalleled wealth and stability to the Empire, but one failure haunted him: the humans of Sol. Humanity was an enigma unlike the subdued races of the Empire. They resisted with an almost irrational determination. Their solar system was a fortress, protected by an impenetrable energy barrier known as the Sol Veil. Attempts to breach the shield had failed spectacularly, costing the Empire thousands of ships and tens of millions of soldiers. Humanity's advanced stealth weaponry and guerrilla tactics had made every Zytherian incursion a costly disaster. For Emperor Clyrax, the inability to crush humanity was a stain on his otherwise flawless reign. In the grand war chamber of the Imperial citadel, he brooded over holographic projections of the Sol Veil, his crimson eyes narrowing in anger. The war chamber was a marvel of Zytherian engineering, a cavernous hall lined with shimmering obsidian and adorned with glowing data streams. The air hummed with the energy of a dozen quantum supercomputers, processing real-time information from across the galaxy. Around a circular table sat the Empire's most trusted advisors, warlords, admirals, and strategists who had guided the Emperor's campaigns for decades. The tension in the room was palpable as Clyrax rose to his feet, his imposing figure casting a long shadow clad in black, armor-like robes adorned with pulsating energy conduits. He was every bit the embodiment of Zytherian supremacy. "Enough," he growled, his voice a deep rumble that silenced the room for too long. "We have allowed the humans to mock us with their insolence. Their defiance is a blight upon our empire, and I will tolerate it no more." The holographic projection of the Sol Veil shimmered before him, a translucent dome of energy encasing the solar system. He gestured toward it, and the image shifted to show a detailed analysis of its structure. "Our scientists have studied the shield for decades," Clyrax continued, his tone sharp. "We now understand its weaknesses. The energy core powering it lies beneath the surface of their colony on Mars. Destroy it, and the Sol Veil will collapse." The room buzzed with murmurs as the warlords exchanged glances. Admiral Kaler, a grizzled veteran with a reputation for cunning, stepped forward. He was one of the few in the room who dared to meet the Emperor's gaze directly. "Majesty," Kaler began, his voice calm but firm, "while the destruction of the Mars core is a sound strategy, we must not underestimate the humans. Their resourcefulness has cost us dearly in the past. We must be prepared for heavy losses." "Losses?" Clyrax's voice was cold, and the room fell silent again. "The Empire does not count losses. It counts victories. This time, we will not fail." He gestured again, and the projection shifted to display a massive fleet. Thousands of warships assembled in formation, their sleek black hulls bristling with weaponry. "This is the Zytherian armada," Clyrax declared, "the largest and most advanced fleet in our history. We will descend upon the humans with the full might of the Empire. There will be no retreat, no hesitation. We will annihilate them." The warlords erupted in applause, their loyalty to the Emperor unwavering. But beneath the surface, some harbored doubts. Humanity's tenacity was legendary, and many had seen firsthand the devastating consequences of underestimating them. As the meeting adjourned, Admiral Kaler lingered, his mind racing with strategies. He knew the Emperor's wrath was a powerful motivator, but it could also blind him to the realities of war. Humanity had proven time and again that they were not to be taken lightly. Outside the war chamber, the Empire mobilized across Zytherian space. Factories churned out ships and weapons at an unprecedented rate. Entire planets were conscripted into the war effort, their populations working tirelessly to fuel the coming campaign. The Zytherian propaganda machine roared to life, broadcasting messages of impending victory to every corner of the Empire. "The humans will fall." The messages proclaimed their defiance will be crushed, and the Empire will reign supreme. Meanwhile, in the solar system, humanity prepared for what they knew was coming for years. They had intercepted Zytherian communications. Piecing together fragments of the Empire's plans on Earth, the United Human Defense Force, UHDF, convened in a secure underground facility beneath the Rocky Mountains. General Maya Trent, the commander of Earth's defense forces, stood at the center of the room, surrounded by holographic displays showing the latest intelligence. A tall, imposing woman with sharp features and piercing blue eyes, Trent was a symbol of human resilience. "The Zytherian are mobilizing," she said, her voice steady but grim. "This isn't just another incursion, this is an invasion." Around her, military leaders from across the solar system exchanged worried glances. Mars, Venus, and the orbital colonies all reported increased activity along their border. Humanity's scouts had detected the movement of Zytherian fleets, their sheer numbers dwarfing anything seen before. "We've faced them before," said Admiral Rajan Patel, commander of the Martian Defense Fleet. "We'll face them again. The Soul Veil has held for decades. It will hold now." Trent shook her head. "Not this time. We have evidence that they found a way to target the Mars core. If they succeed, the Soul Veil will collapse and will be exposed." The room fell silent as the gravity of her words sank in. The Soul Veil was humanity's greatest defense, a technological marvel that had kept them safe for generations. Without it, they would be vulnerable to the full might of the Zytherian Empire. Trent turned to her chief engineer, Dr. Elena Vasquez. "Can we reinforce the core? Buy ourselves more time?" Vasquez hesitated. "We've been working on upgrades, but it won't be enough if the Zytherian deploy a quantum disruptor. The core will fail." "Then we have no choice," Trent said. "We prepare for the worst. Every colony, every ship, every soldier. We fight to the last." Across the solar system, humanity mobilized engineers worked around the clock to fortify defenses, while soldiers trained for the battles to come. Orbital platforms were armed with experimental weapons, and stealth frigates prepared for hit-and-run tactics. Despite the looming threat, there was a sense of unity among humanity. For the first time in decades, the fractured colonies of Sol put aside their differences and stood together. The Zytherian had underestimated them before, and they would do so again. But as the Zytherian armada drew closer, the question lingered in every mind: could humanity withstand the storm? For Emperor Clyrax, the answer was clear: the humans would fall, and their defiance would be nothing more than a memory. But for General Trent and the people of Sol, surrender was not an option. The coming war would decide the fate of both the Zytherian Empire and humanity, and neither side was prepared to lose. The Zytherian armada emerged from hyperspace like a tidal wave of death, darkening the stars over the edge of the solar system. Thousands of warships in perfect formation stretched as far as the eye could see, their sleek, black hulls glinting ominously against the cold vacuum of space. At the center of the fleet loomed Dominion's Wrath, Emperor Clyrax's flagship, a colossal dreadnought bristling with weapons capable of vaporizing entire moons. Admiral Kaler stood on the bridge of his battleship, Eclipse's Fong overseeing the opening moves of the invasion. Before him, the holographic projection of the solar system flickered with activity as his fleet advanced toward the human colonies. "Their defenses are concentrated around Earth and Mars," Kaler observed. Addressing his officers, "We'll begin by targeting the Mars core. The humans will throw everything they have at us, but we are prepared." As the fleet advanced, Zytherian ships unleashed waves of long-range energy blasts, testing the limits of the Soul Veil. The massive barrier shimmered and crackled under the assault, holding firm but visibly straining. On Earth, alarms blared as humanity braced for impact. General Maya Trent stood in the command center of the United Human Defense Force, UHDF, watching the battle unfold on a massive holographic screen. "They've started," she said, her tone grim. "How long can the Soul Veil hold?" Dr. Elena Vasquez, the chief engineer, replied without looking up from her console. "At this rate, we have 3 days, maybe less. Their firepower is off the charts." Trent turned to her staff. "We need to buy time. Deploy the stealth frigates. Target their supply lines and disrupt their formations. Let's make them bleed." The battle for Mars. While Earth's defenses scrambled, the real battle began. On Mars, the Martian colony, home to over 5 million humans, was the linchpin of humanity's defense. Beneath its surface lay the energy core that powered the Soul Veil, a massive fusion reactor encased in layers of reinforced alloys and shielded by quantum fields. The Zytherian strike force descended upon Mars with ruthless precision. Dozens of landing craft pierced the planet's thin atmosphere, deploying waves of heavily armed soldiers and mechanized war machines. Martian Defense Fleet Admiral Rajan Patel coordinated the defense from his command ship Red Horizon. Concentrate fire on their landing zones. He ordered, don't let them gain a foothold. Human artillery installations on the Martian surface roared to life, bombarding the invaders with plasma shells and railgun fire. At the same time, squadrons of human fighters engaged Zytherian air support in a chaotic dogfight. Despite their efforts, the Zytherian forces were relentless. Advanced hover tanks and infantry armed with energy weapons overwhelmed the Martian defenders. Within hours, key defensive positions fell, and the Zytherian began their advance toward the core facility. Sabotage and desperation. On Earth, Trent received grim updates from Mars. They're breaking through, Admiral Patel reported. Over the comm, we've lost the outer perimeter. They'll reach the core within the hour. Trent, clench your fists. We can't lose that core. Send reinforcements. Everything we have. We're already stretched thin. Patel replied, I'll hold as long as I can, but the signal cut out, replaced by static. Trent's jaw tightened. She turned to her chief strategist, Colonel Ethan Gray. Options. Gray hesitated. We could deploy our orbital strike platforms, but that would leave Earth vulnerable. If Mars falls, we'll have no choice but to fortify here. Trent nodded reluctantly. Do it. Target their landing zones, and command ships will delay them as long as possible. The fall of the core. On Mars, the battle reached its climax. Human forces, battered and outnumbered, made a desperate last stand at the core facility. Soldiers fought in the narrow corridors of the underground complex, using makeshift barricades and explosives to slow the Zytherian advance. Private Jace Keller, a young soldier barely out of training, found himself in the thick of the fighting. Armed with a plasma rifle, he held the line alongside his squad, firing at the seemingly endless waves of Zytherian troops. They just keep coming, one of his squad mates shouted, panic in her voice. Hold your ground, their sergeant barked. We can't let them take this place. But it was a losing battle. The Zytherian deployed a squad of heavy exosuits, massive, humanoid machines armed with devastating energy cannons. One by one, the human defenders fell, their weapons unable to penetrate the exosuit shields. Keller ducked behind cover, his heart pounding. He could hear the screams of his comrades and the relentless hum of the Zytherian weapons. He clenched his rifle tightly, determined to fight to the end. But then, a deafening explosion shook the complex. The Zytherian had breached the reactor chamber. Keller watched in horror as a team of Zytherian engineers deployed a quantum disruptor. Fall back, the sergeant shouted. The surviving humans retreated as the disruptor activated. A brilliant pulse of energy erupted from the device, and the reactor's protective shields collapsed moments later. The core detonated, sending a massive shockwave through the Martian surface. The soul veil flickered and died. Humanity exposed. On Earth, the moment the soul veil collapsed was met with stunned silence. In the UHDF command center, the holographic display went dark, replaced by a cascade of warning alerts. They've done it, Dr. Vasquez said, her voice barely above a whisper. Trent's expression hardened. So, this is it. No more barriers, no more shields. Just us against them. She turned to her staff. Prepare every weapon, every ship, every soldier if they want to fight. We'll give them one. Across the solar system, humanity braced for the worst. Orbital defense platforms powered up their weapons, and planetary cannons were aimed skyward. Stealth frigates launched hit-and-run raids against the Zytherian fleet, targeting supply ships and command vessels. Despite their best efforts, the Zytherian armada advanced inexorably. Mars was left in ruins, its once thriving cities reduced to ash. Venus and the asteroid colonies fell shortly after. Clyrax's ultimatum. As the Zytherian forces tightened their grip on the solar system, Emperor Clyrax made his move. Broadcasting from Dominion's wrath, he addressed humanity directly. His holographic image appeared in the skies above Earth, a towering figure clad in black and crimson armor. His voice, amplified and menacing, echoed across the planet. "Humans," he declared, "your defiance has come to an end. Surrender now, and I may yet spare your world. Resist, and I will erase every trace of your existence from the stars." The message was met with silence on Earth. Followed by a single act of defiance, General Trent ordered an orbital strike on Dominion's wrath. The massive cannon fired, narrowly missing the Emperor's flagship, but sending a clear message. Trent's voice echoed through human channels: "We will never surrender. If you want Earth, you'll have to take it 1 inch at a time." The stage was set for the final battle. With the soul veil gone and humanity's forces stretched to their limit, the fight for survival would determine the fate of both the solar system and the Zytherian Empire. The skies above Earth burned with the glow of thousands of ships engaged in relentless combat. Humanity's orbital defenses, though outnumbered and outgunned, held firm against the onslaught of the Zytherian armada. Massive space stations converted into battle platforms unleashed torrents of plasma and railgun fire, while squadrons of human fighters darted through the chaos, engaging the enemy in deadly dogfights. From the command center buried deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, General Maya Trent coordinated the desperate defense. The room was alive with activity. Officers shouted reports, holographic displays flickered with real-time data, and the low hum of machinery filled the air. "They're pushing hard on the Western Hemisphere defense grid," Colonel Ethan Gray reported. "If they break through there, they'll have a direct path to the surface. Divert the Third Fleet to reinforce the grid," Trent ordered, "and tell the orbital platforms to hold their fire until the enemy is within optimal range. We can't waste energy on stray shots." "General," Dr. Elena Vasquez interjected, "our reserves are almost depleted. If we keep this up, we'll be out of power in less than 12 hours. Trent's jaw tightened. "Then we make those 12 hours count. Every second we hold them off gives us a chance to hit back." Earth's secret weapon. Unbeknownst to the Zytherian, humanity had been preparing for this moment for years. Deep beneath the surface of Antarctica lay Project Iron Dawn, a prototype warship unlike anything humanity had ever built. The Helios Ascendant was a leviathan of human ingenuity, equipped with experimental weaponry and powered by a miniature fusion core. Its stealth systems made it invisible to enemy sensors, and its main cannon, a particle accelerator designed to pierce even the strongest shields, was humanity's best hope of turning the tide. Captain Aidan Cross, a decorated veteran and the ship's commanding officer, stood on the bridge of the Helios Ascendant, watching as final preparations were made. Around him, his crew worked with quiet efficiency, their faces a mixture of determination and apprehension. "We've been waiting for this moment," Cross said. His voice steadied as Zytherian think they've won. "Let's show them what humanity can do." As the Helios Ascendant rose from its hidden hangar, its massive form breaking through the icy crust of Antarctica, the world watched in awe. For a brief moment, hope ignited in the hearts of those who had already begun to despair. The ground invasion. While the battle raged in orbit, Zytherian ground forces began their assault on Earth. Giant transport ships descended through the atmosphere, deploying legions of soldiers and war machines. Entire cities became battlefields as humanity's ground forces fought to repel the invaders. In New York, Lieutenant Sarah Kim led her squad through the war-torn streets, using the urban environment to their advantage. Armed with a shoulder-mounted missile launcher, she took down a Zytherian walker, a towering, four-legged machine bristling with weapons. "Fall back to the next checkpoint," she shouted, her voice barely audible over the chaos. Her squad complied, retreating through the rubble-strewn streets. Despite their best efforts, it was clear that the Zytherian forces were overwhelming. Entire districts fell under their control, and the casualties mounted. "Kim, we can't hold them here much longer," one of her soldiers shouted. "We don't have to," Kim replied. "Reinforcements are coming. We just need to buy them time." The Helios Ascendant strikes. In orbit, the Helios Ascendant made its presence known. Emerging from stealth, It unleashed a devastating salvo on the Zytherian fleet. Its main cannon fired a beam of pure energy, slicing through the shields and hulls of several enemy battleships in a single shot. Admiral Kaler, observing the battle from Eclipse's Fawn, was momentarily stunned by the unexpected attack. "What is that ship?" he demanded. "Unknown, Admiral," his tactical officer replied. "Its design and energy signatures don't match any known human vessel." Kaler's eyes narrowed. "It's a prototype. They've been holding it in reserve. All units, focus fire on that ship." The Helios Ascendant became the primary target of the Zytherian armada. Waves of fighters and capital ships closed in, bombarding it with energy blasts and missiles. Evasive maneuvers Captain Cross barked. "Deploy countermeasures and return fire." The Helios Ascendant moved with surprising agility for a ship of its size, evading enemy fire while delivering punishing counterattacks. Its secondary cannons picked off fighters with pinpoint accuracy, and its advanced shields absorbed the brunt of the enemy assault. But the odds were against them. For every Zytherian ship they destroyed, 2 more took its place. "Captain, shields are down to 40%, the tactical officer reported. "Hold the line," Cross replied. "We're not done yet." A desperate gamble. On the surface, General Trent realized that humanity could not win a prolonged war. The Zytherians' numbers and resources were simply too great. She needed to take a risk. "Prepare the Omega Protocol," she ordered. The Omega Protocol was humanity's last resort, a plan to use Earth's own fusion reactors to create a massive electromagnetic pulse. The EMP would disable every electronic system in the solar system, including the Zytherian fleet. "But General," Dr. Vasquez protested, "the EMP will cripple our own defenses as well. We'll be defenseless." "I know," Trent said, "but it's the only way. If we don't stop them now, there won't be anything left to defend." Preparations began immediately. Fusion reactors around the planet were overloaded, their energy redirected to create the pulse. The final blow. As the Zytherian forces pushed closer to Earth's surface, the Helios Ascendant made one final charge. Captain Cross directed the ship toward Dominion's Wrath, intent on taking out Emperor Clyrax himself. "Target their flagship," Cross commanded. "Fire everything we've got." The Helios Ascendant unleashed a barrage of missiles and energy blasts, hammering the Zytherian dreadnought. For a moment, it seemed as though they might succeed. But then, the Helios Ascendant shuddered violently as enemy fire breached its hull. Alarms blared, and the ship's systems began to fail. "Captain, we're losing control," his first officer shouted. Cross gritted his teeth. "All hands, prepare for impact. If we go down, we're taking them with us." The Helios Ascendant collided with Dominion's Wrath in a fiery explosion, crippling the Zytherian flagship, the EMP. At that moment, the Omega Protocol was activated. A blinding pulse of energy erupted from Earth, spreading across the solar system. Zytherian ships and ground forces were instantly disabled, their advanced technology rendered useless. On Earth, the invaders' war machines ground to a halt, giving humanity a chance to regroup. The EMP also disabled humanity's own systems, plunging the planet into darkness. But for the first time in days, the skies were silent. Victory and sacrifice. In the aftermath, humanity emerged battered but unbroken. The Zytherian forces, cut off from their empire and unable to fight, were captured or destroyed. Emperor Clyrax, wounded and furious, was taken prisoner by a team of human soldiers. His capture marked the end of the invasion and a turning point in the war. General Trent addressed the survivors from a hastily constructed command post. "We've paid a heavy price," she said, "but today we prove that humanity will not be conquered. We are free." Across the solar system, cheers erupted as the news spread. Against all odds, humanity had won, but the victory came with a sobering realization. The cost of survival had been immense, and the scars of the battle would linger for generations.